In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast, it is part 2 of a 2-part interview that I had with Zhaire Smith. I have labeled this episode The Untold Story of Zhaire Smith. In part 1, he shared his, crazy experience of when he had this infection to where he was in the hospital for a month and a half and lost 60 pounds. In part 2, we're going to talk about his goals for the 2023 NBA season and just his overall faith and what kept him going throughout this difficult time. So stay tuned for part 2 of my interview with Zhaire Smith. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, the director of scouting for NBA Big Board and the founder of NBA Draft Junkies. And this episode, just like part 1, is brought to you by Gametime. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the Locked On NBA code for $20 off your first purchase. I am a big believer in the Gametime app. Like I mentioned in the first episode, I was able to get tickets and I had a credit $100 off. $100 off. So I was able to go to the Dallas Wings and Las Vegas Aces game in Dallas on Friday. And I was surprised to see I had this credit. So download the Gametime app and you can get $20 off. All right, here is part 2 of my interview with Zhaire Smith. But before we get into the interview, I want to thank you, the listener. Whether you're listening in the car, on your way to work, in the gym, whether you're listening at work while you should be working, I thank you for each and every listen. So please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Comments will help us grow the YouTube channel. And we are just days away from basketball season. Basketball season is starting this week. I can't wait. So I'm looking forward to it. But I wanted to get this story out about Zhaire Smith and his crazy journey to get back into the NBA. So here it is, part 2 of the untold story of former first-round pick Zhaire Smith. Yep. So you were known for your athleticism, and you were. What was your vertical at the combine? Wasn't it one of the highest?
Probably second. I think 41, maybe 42.
And then teams were in love with your defense and your wingspan. So I want to go back to that crazy year that you had between your last year of high school up until the draft. Like I said, you weren't like super highly touted. And, like I live in Dallas and, the Dallas media has their favorites, has the guy that is supposed to be that dude. And your name was never mentioned in that category. And then out of nowhere, you have a good freshman year. You shot the ball well. It was a low volume of attempts, I believe, but there was enough to where people saw the promise and then athleticism in the defense, the 6'9" wingspan athleticism. So just tell me about that experience of you enter campus as a 3-star, and then all of a sudden you see your name shooting up draft boards. Walk me through that whole year.
So that whole year, I didn't expect to play my freshman year. Like I said, coming in as a 4, and I'm thinking the Big 12. So these dudes, on a whole nother level. Coach did say I was going to play. I'm like, coaches always say that. And when I went, I studied. I said, okay, Texas Tech got 5 seniors. So if I redshirt my freshman year, sophomore year, it's all me because they all going to be gone. So I went, trained. I was training hard, too, because I didn't want to redshirt. And I impressed a lot of people. They were like, God, Lee, you making noise. So I was making noise. And then, boom, preseason games, I played a good amount of minutes and then played great minutes during the season. And then about, January, people was like, your name on draft boards. I said, well, for next year? They said, nah, this year you're in the first round. I said, bet, don't tell me that no more because, I want to stay focused and do what I do and not do nothing extra. So that just motivated me. So I'm like, man, I'm in the first round. I'm considering going if I'm top 20, but if not, I'm going to stay because I want to improve on my 3-point shooting, ball handling, and transition to the guard because I want to, play guard. I was playing the 4 and 5. But that was just a great year. We went to the Elite 8. I love my teammates, and we just had fun that year. I just did me. And Coach Beard put me in the best situation to get drafted.
Yeah, he did. I feel like was it 3 straight years? Was it you, Jared, and then Jemias?
Yep.
3 straight years. And even like in Jemias' situation, Jemias Ramsey, I'm talking about,
Yep.
he wasn't considered a one and done, and then he ended up playing well. I have this joke, and some people don't like, but I feel like during that 3 year span, Texas Tech was taking guys that weren't considered shooters, and then somehow
Yep.
guys were knocking them down efficiently. So, I mean, did you guys work on a lot of shooting, and was that just like a high emphasis in their developmental program?
I believe so, and I can't speak for themselves, but I'm sure they was in the gym. But I know I was just in the gym extra as well. So we did that. We worked with the group, the staff. We had great GAs, and I was just putting time in the gym as well, in the mornings and late nights. So I grinded. I just wasn't comfortable shooting.
Yeah, I know it was a low volume of attempts. Did you play with Terrence Shannon?
I didn't.
Oh, he was right after. He
Uh,
seemed like he's been in school forever.
no, I think he was 2 years after,
2 years,
maybe a year,
because he
maybe a year
he
too.
he didn't shoot hardly at all his freshman year
Yep.
from
And
three,
now
and
he
then
can knock that thing
and
down.
now he can knock it down. So I want to talk about your transition from a four to like a wing. Because whenever I saw you play, I mean, of course, in the high school level, you were more athletic than everybody else,
Yep.
and your greatest advantage was at the four. How difficult was the transition, and are you still working on the transition from playing more so of a wing spot?
Mm-hmm. I feel like my rookie year it was difficult, but then once I got the reps in, I got comfortable with it, and I liked it because I got tired of guarding them big, strong fours. So I feel like I'm comfortable with it, especially coming off pick and roll and making the right reads. So most definitely comfortable with it.
All right, let's talk about this summer. Like, what was your goals, and what did you work on this summer to prepare you for this opportunity that you have with Cleveland?
So this summer I worked on everything. I was in the gym from 5 a.m. I was doing 2 days, 5 a.m. and then 8 p.m. And I just worked on my all-around game, especially shooting. So my goal was to play summer league, and after summer league, I wanted to at least sign to training camp deal or two-way. And I got the training camp. But I was just putting the grind, working on mid-range, ball handling, threes, and what else? Mm-hmm. That's it.
So you were working out with Tim Martin. Was
Mm-hmm.
Tim your coach at RM5 that summer?
Yes, he was. He was my coach for a little bit.
Okay. And then tell me about working with Tim. I've known Tim for a while, man. He has a great story. We actually started
Definitely.
with the Texas Legends together. So that was like 10 years
Yeah.
ago. And I mean, just to see where he's gone from, like an intern to I met him when he was working with Josh Howard and Devin Harris, and actually like
Yeah.
filmed one of his first videos on my iPad, and then seeing how he's now working with Victor Wembanyama. So I mean, Tim is a
Yeah.
great success story. So tell me about your relationship with Tim.
We pretty cool. Like I said, he coached me during RM5 season. He do got one hell of a story, and he's great. He's a great trainer. He always pushed me to the limits, and he always say last rep, and it never be the last rep. He always had me on that court forever.
Yeah, having you, I mean, he's like I consider him like a thinking trainer. Like he's
Yeah.
puts you in a bunch of different situations where you're just thinking and thinking the game through.
Yeah.
And, there's some trainers where you do a lot of ball handling. There's some trainers where you get up a lot of shots and a lot of reps. But with Tim, it's like a lot of game action and
Yeah.
simulation.
Like he
All right.
find your niche and be like, this what you're gonna be great at. So work on this move. For me, it was the in and out pull up. And when I
Yep.
was doing that, we was hooping. Like there you go. Like they can't do nothing with that. So he put that in me.
Yep. All right. I want to go back to just your journey. If you had to give advice to a young player or someone that is dealing with injuries and setbacks after setbacks,
Mm-hmm.
what would your advice be to keep them going?
My advice will be get close to God. God got to be the centerpiece in everything. During my time, I was close to God, but I wasn't. I ain't understand. So I was reading my Bible, but I ain't understand my Bible. And really, stop having sex if you're not married. Sexual sin was against your body, and I just felt like that came to me while doing that. So God is the centerpiece.
So you feel like just the setbacks brought you closer or strengthened your relationship? Because, for some people, I feel like if you have a situation like yours or a major setback, you can go either way. You can either bring you closer or you can like doubt and get further away. And so, yours obviously brought you closer.
Yeah, it brought me close, and I feel like that is the centerpiece because, you're down for a reason. So I was like, why, God? And it just came to me. Get close to him, stop sinning. We all sin every day, but the sin that you know better, you do better. So once I knew better, I stopped.
All right, I have more with Zhaire in a minute, but I want to talk to you about Gametime because you should not have to worry about buying tickets to your next event. Gametime is fast and easy. It is the fastest and the easiest way to buy tickets for sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. They have killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and they have a best price guarantee. And Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. I've used Gametime a few times. Once I was in New York for a Yankees game. I used Gametime to go to the Errol Spence Bud Crawford fight. What I like about Gametime is when they have the all-in prices, you can like flip the bar and you're not surprised because there are plenty of times where I use other apps for tickets and the tickets are one cost, and then by the time you go to checkout, you find out that the fees are like an extra $50 to $75 to $100. Well, Gametime gives you the all-in prices, so you know exactly how much you're going to spend. But they have the last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. It's easy to find and buy tickets from every type of event in your area, and they actually show you views of the seats from the venue and their low price guarantee, event cancellation protection. They even have job loss protection, so you can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. There are times where I've bought seats to a game and my view is absolutely terrible, especially when you go to some venues in like different countries. But with Gametime, you can actually see the view of the seat, and the all-in prices show your total up front, so you know what you're getting, a real deal, and you don't have the hidden fees. You can buy the tickets in seconds in just a couple of taps. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it starts. It is the last place where you can find last-minute seats. And you can find their exclusive deals and sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, theater, and more. So go to Gametime. Download the Gametime app, I should say. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Now, terms apply. Again, you have to create an account and use the redeem code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA, for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Gametime app. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And when I say lowest price guaranteed, they have a Gametime guarantee, which you'll get the best price. And if you find tickets in the same section or row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. So again, download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA, and $20 off your first purchase. And then how often did you have the why me? Because it was almost like you come out of nowhere and then boom, you're like NBA, you get drafted, and then it just comes crashing down. So was there a lot of why me questions or concerns?
Yeah. My rookie year, because ever since my rookie year, it's just always been something. So I'm like, why? And I never just got it until, probably about a year or a year and a half ago, it just hit me.
And so your advice, other than God, what about like as far as just staying strong mentally? I know obviously God plays a role in that, but how did you make sure that you stayed out of like depressions? Because I work with a lot of guys that it may not necessarily be injuries, but it may be setback, whether they're getting released from teams or they're, right now it's October in a sense, and that phone call hasn't came for the guys that are looking to go overseas. And so like, what would your advice be to just stay strong?
Yeah. So other than God, write your goals down and grind. So stay ready so you don't have to be ready.
Yep. So you've played for Philly, the Blue Coats, and then this opportunity with the Cavs is so really like this is just your second team.
Yeah,
So how's well, I guess training camp hasn't officially started yet, but how's everything been for you with the, just like being around the Cavs organization?
it's been great. We've been getting in every day, getting good reps and getting good pickup runs. So it's been great for me. So I'm enjoying it. Team look good, feel good, and we all gelling together.
So who's all there right now? Is the whole team there? Just kind of
Yep, the whole team.
so that's good. I mean, camp hasn't officially started yet, but it's always good to have the whole team around. Um, this is a NBA draft based podcast, and so a lot of people are going to wonder how's Imani Bates.
He's the truth. I like his game.
Okay,
He got next for sure.
okay. So you think he's someone that can provide NBA minutes this year?
Most definitely. If he continue grind, putting in work, listen to the coach for sure.
All right, and I've had Craig Porter on the podcast. I'm a big fan of Craig Porter. All right, I wanted to hear about your pre-draft process. I haven't had a player talk about the pre-draft process. I mean, I've had players talk about it, but they were like in the middle of the process. I haven't had anyone talk about it in like a past tense. So tell me, like, how was that experience? Did you work out for a bunch of teams, and how was that for you? Was it like were teams putting you through workouts to see can you play the guard spot? Just tell me about your experience there.
The pre-draft workout was great. I loved every single one. I think I probably did about 8 to 10 maybe, and I did Philly twice. And really, not it was 3-on-3, so just a lot of guys in my position. So the guard/forward position. And usually, we do some shooting, then we do 1-on-1 out of closeouts, and then 3-on-3, straight like that, just hoop. And
how do you think you were able to win Philly over to the point where they brought you back twice and then traded for you?
Probably my shooting. I shot the ball well. First time I feel like I didn't shoot the ball well, but probably just my athleticism. And the second time I came in, I shot the ball much better.
Who are some of the players that you went up against?
It's hard to remember. I think Josh Okogie, Troy Brown. Who else? It was a lot of good people. It was a lot. It was a lot of talent.
Because you had like a wide projected range. So I imagine that you probably worked out with some guys that were lottery, and then you probably worked out with some guys that were drafted free agents to second round picks. And I always ask, like, who did you work out against? Because I had a friend, he told me that he was more so of a scorer. And he had a workout with a guy that's like yourself that was like a freak athlete.
Yeah.
And he said that one team, the workout benefited the athlete because they're like, touch the square or, show off your athleticism. And he said it wasn't a lot of one-on-one. And so he had told his agent, like, look, man, you can't have me in a workout with a guy with a 40-inch vert and he's touching the square and windmilling and I'm just, doing basic dunks because it doesn't make me look good. And then I've heard guys saying same thing for shooters. Like, all right, I'm a scorer, but you got me in a workout with a sniper that's going to just stand in a corner. He's going to look better in those drills. So I was just kind of figure out, like, because your position was so unique, like, who did you match up against? Was it forwards? Was it wings? And so on?
All guards, wings, and forwards. So really, I can't remember the names, but some was undrafted who's doing their thing overseas right now, and some in NBA, but I really can't think of the names. I can see the face, but I can't think of the names. But it was some great runs and great workouts for sure.
You say you had 8 to 10 workouts?
I remember, yeah.
Was the travel difficult?
Not at all. It was like if I was on the East Coast, like Philly, and then I went to New York, so, just catch the train there. So it wasn't bad at all. Phoenix, Nuggets, maybe 6 to 8, because I didn't have much.
So you were one of the first players, if I'm not mistaken, to sign with Roc Nation. Is that correct?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, as far as on the basketball side.
Mm-hmm.
And then now you're with a good friend of mine, Pete Michael. How did you connect with Pete?
Through a mutual friend. He mentioned Pete, and Pete just hit me up. He was like, if you pick my brain, I was picking his brain, That just seemed like he was a real down to earth person with a bunch of connections, know what he's talking about, and great communicator. And we were just talking, and boom, I just decided to go with him.
Yeah, Pete has a wealth of knowledge. I mean, he has, his experience. I mean, he was drafted by the Mavericks, and then he played on some veteran NBA teams and didn't really get the opportunity to play. And then he went overseas and just had a great career overseas and won different cups and EuroLeague championships, played a long time. So he knows how to, tell guys to take care of their body. I think he played like 18 years or something like that.
He can relate.
Yep. And then he's seen it from different angles. And then he worked in the front office for a couple teams. So that is it's a very unique experience for an agent to be able to relate to players from the front office side to the player side and as an agent side. And so Pete is definitely doing his thing and he's growing his agency. So big shout out to Pete. All right. Yes, as far as like your health this year, you say you're 100%. When did you realize that, okay, I'm back, I'm feeling like myself again?
Probably after summer league. I didn't really kind of feel myself during summer league. So probably after summer league, I feel like, after summer league, my body was like, okay, now we're getting back to that motion. Because, it takes a while. Because I only had my surgery last year. So I probably feel after summer league. Some spurts in summer league, but after summer league, I feel like I was to myself. Start moving good, taking off from certain places that I wasn't taking off from. So after summer league.
Was it hard to get your confidence back after the allergic reaction? Like just playing and then the struggle, was it hard to get not only get back physically, but then get your confidence and like your athleticism to move the way you were moving before?
Think about that. During that allergic reaction, no, because I put in the work. I just kept grinding. I put in the work, so no, and I felt myself improving. So not necessarily. I probably felt that way probably by my look because I was so skinny.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to be seen, so I had to cover up. I wanted to cover up.
So where are you at now compared to, as far as weight-wise, compared to where you were at when you were drafted?
So when I was drafted, I think I was probably 185. Now I'm about 200, 205, so fun with that.
And what's the highest you've been up to?
The highest I've been was 212. I was playing my second year summer league by 212. And I didn't like that way. I was athletic, but I just felt heavy. So I'm probably want to get back to 200.
All right. So this is a big year for you. Is there like a drive for you to like reestablish Zhaire Smith? Mm-hmm. Because do you feel like people have forgotten about you in a sense?
Probably, but I try not to worry about that. I just play for God, myself, and my family. So really, it just big ups for me and just whatever God promised me. He said He's gonna give me back, so I'm just playing the glory of Him.
How can Zhaire Smith help the Cleveland Cavaliers or any NBA team that is listening?
Just playing my role. So of course, defense, guarding the best players, being able to knock down open shots, and being coachable and listening and doing, and just my athleticism, being everywhere and being a steward of the game.
Actually, I have another question. All right, one, when you talk about your character, the one consistent thing you always hear about, maybe two consistent things you always hear about Zhaire Smith: the athleticism, but the character. You've always been known as like a really, really high character guy. And I think that's huge, because if there were a guy that had different character issues that went through what you went through, it would be easy for the league to just forget about him. But the last question I wanted to ask you is, what do you have in your game that you feel like you have not been able to show? Because I know, like in the NBA, everybody kind of has a role, right? Mm-hmm. And so you've mentioned that your role would probably be as a 3-and-D guy.
Yep.
But do you feel like there's something in your game that you have more to offer that you haven't been able to show, that you will probably only be able to show once you start on your role as a 3-and-D wing? Mm-hmm. And then once you get established in that role, then it will allow other things to open up?
Yeah, probably that, the shooting, probably the shooting, because basically I've been injured the whole time I was in the league, so people just remember me from my Texas Tech. So probably shooting.
And then the form you feel totally comfortable with the form that has been reworked?
Most definitely, yeah.
I keep saying last question. How long did that take? This is the last question. How long did that take?
I feel like it probably took a year. I think I got it back during my second summer league.
And even then, that seems like somewhat of a long time just to get your form back and then get comfortable shooting. And then I imagine there's probably times where your form was inconsistent. You would shoot it the new way and then go back the old way. And then the muscle memory could be an issue. So
you own it, because that's how I felt. I missed one shot. I'm like, man, I'm about to change back to the other one. Then you make one, then you keep missing. You're just not consistent. So you're like, hey, you just got to go whatever feels comfortable and natural. So I just went with that, and I just put in the work with that.
Yep, and like I said, I've seen you shoot this summer. The shot looks good. I'm definitely rooting for you. I think you have a story that can help anybody, because everybody has something in life that they may be going through, and yours is unique in a sense because you reached your dream and then it was like it was snatched away from you at such a young age. And you have to be like extremely mature to handle it at any age, but you had it happen at a very young age, and you're still here, and so you have a story to tell. And my wish for you is that you get back on the court and you are able to show why you were selected so high. And then that would give your story a bigger platform that can help other people, because I definitely think that there's a reason you went through what you went through. And my dad has a saying, and he's saying that you can go through something for 15 years and you can tell your story and help somebody out in 15 minutes. And so your story wasn't necessarily 15 years, but it was, what is it, like almost 5 years, 6 years.
Yeah.
And in 5 minutes, or even on this podcast, you can help someone to, just fight through and just trust that everything is going to come out on the other end. And so I'm a fan just because, like I said, I've known your story from afar. I didn't know you were in the hospital for a month and a half. I knew it was,
people don't.
I knew it was bad. And I remember reading about it. And of course, you hear like peanut allergy, but I didn't know like you lost that much weight. And then the fact that you were trying to get back out on the court and play. And so here's the thing about that. There's so many people that knock NBA players for load management. I always say load management is a front office thing. It's not necessarily players saying, I don't want to play today. So you have your story that doesn't get told, where you lose 60 pounds, you're skin and bones, you're in the hospital for a month and a half, and you were trying to play in the G League.
Yeah.
But those are the stories that don't get told. So I'm glad I was able to give you a platform to share your story. So thank you so much. Once again, it's Rafael Barlowe with Zhaire Smith, and we are out.